Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Baqarah, referring to those who are as human beings should be, those who believe in that which is sent down to you, and in that which was sent down to those who were before you, and concerning the other world have yaqeen. This is the practice of yaqeen, which requires thought and definition. First of all, is it different from iman? When you say, I believe in something, it's not quite the same as saying, I am certain about something. But when you say in Arabic, ana u'minu bi shay', you're saying something a little bit more than I just believe in something. Belief in Arabic is a somewhat weaker word, more like tasdeeq. Iman is much stronger. It means a secure awareness that something is the case. There's a distinction nonetheless in Allah's book between iman and yaqeen. Iman we translate as this secure awareness, and yaqeen we translate usually as certainty. What does it mean to be certain? In this dunya there are certain things of which we can be certain. وَاعْبُدْ رَبَّكَ حَتَّى يَأْتِيَكَ الْيَقِينَ. Worship your Lord until that which is certain comes to you, and that which is certain is the hour of your death. Nobody escapes that, not even the Anbiya alayhimus salam. It's something certain. Other things we think we can be certain, but perhaps there's less certainty. My memory might let me down. I'm fairly certain that I left the keys on the dresser, but perhaps I'm wrong. When I go there, I find out that my certainty has let me down. My certainty was in error. And there are examples of this in the Quran as well. People with bad memories, people who misunderstand the lives and the teachings and the ends of Allah's prophets. That's part of our problem. Very often human beings can be certain about the teachings of the founder of their religion or of another sainted or scholarly human being, but actually that yaqeen turns out to be misplaced. Look at the story of the Bani Israel and of the rabbis who were convinced that إِنَّا قَتَلْنَا الْمَسِيحَ Isa ibn Maryam. We are the ones who slew, who killed the Masih, Isa ibn Maryam alayhi salam. But مَا لَهُمْ بِهِ مِنْ عِلْمٍ. Allah makes it clear they do not have knowledge of this. إِنْ يَتَّبِعُونَ إِلَّا الظَّنَّ. They're following only conjecture. وَمَا قَتَلُوهُ يَقِينًا. And they didn't kill him for certain. They have this certainty, but in fact it's based on zan, predominant opinion, supposition. Because what are they doing? There's a new book on this. Somebody called Peter Schaefer has a book called Jesus in the Talmud. They're trying to recollect something that actually is out of living memory. Trying to recall something that is too far ago, too long ago, really, for us to have authentic yaqeen, if all we are is historians trying to reach back in time. وَمَا قَتَلُوهُ يَقِينًا. They didn't kill him, for sure. They don't have that knowledge. They only have zan. So there's that kind of certainty. But religious certainty is always something a bit different. Because that which we know about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our reaching of Him through our knowledge and our certainty, is quite different from the way in which we reach and know anything in this dunya. Because there's no true analogy between what is infinite and what is finite. Iman in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and yaqeen concerning Him is quite different from the iman or the yaqeen that we might have about, for instance, the fact that we're going to die, or the fact that there is a city called Paris, or other things about which we may feel that we have certainty. It's different. And this is an important thing, because ours is an age of loss of faith and lack of faith. And one of the reasons for this is that people think that believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, having yaqeen in Him, is just another thing that you have faith in or you believe in. But it isn't. It's something different. And the place which it occupies in our consciousness is a different place. And this is why we speak of the aql, of reason, but we also speak of al-qalb, which is the heart. Look at one of the great stories which illustrates this in the Quran, which is the story of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam. We know him to be a man of yaqeen, a man of certainty. The man who, as a boy still, had such certainty that his family's religion was wrong, that in the middle of the night he picked up an axe and he smashed the idols of his tribe. That was the degree of his certainty. the one who was happy to go out and to be banished, the one who had confidence in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala even when thrown into the furnace of Nimrod, the one who welcomed the strangers into his tent without having any knowledge of who they were, the one who went to the city of Mecca and accepted Allah's commands to build a house there, the one who accepted Allah's commands even to draw a knife over the throat of his own son, the one who had such yaqeen that he accepted Allah's commandment to send out into the wilderness Hajar and Sayyidina Ismail alayhi salam, a man of yaqeen, the great figure of yaqeen, and the one who we refer to as Al-Hanif. Hanif has something to do with that basic yaqeen that is even before rationality and the tricks that it can play. Absolute certainty, as if you saw something and no longer need to reason it out. The story in the Quran of how Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam began on this path is a very instructive one, and I'm sure we all know it. إِذْ قَالَ إِبْرَاهِيمُ لِأَبِيهِ آزَرَ, when Ibrahim said to his father Azar, أَتَتَّخِذُ أَصْنَامًا آلِهَةً, do you take idols, statues, images to be deities, things that appear to have no ability even to move, you're regarding them as being powerful gods. إِنِّي أَرَاكَ وَقَوْمَكَ فِي ضَلَالٍ مُبِينٍ, I see that you and your people are in obvious misguidance. There's little. He hasn't seen anything, and the ulama say he had never seen, at that stage in his life, any of Allah's ayats that could be regarded as supernatural. He hadn't been shown a miracle. He hadn't been given a book. He hadn't seen an angel. He worked it out for himself, but not with reason. He's young, but something that brought yaqeen in his heart. And how did this come about? وَكَذَلِكَ نُرِيَ إِبْرَاهِيمَ مَلَكُوتِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ لِيَكُونَ مِنَ الْمُوقِنِينَ. Thus did we show Ibrahim the kingdom of the heaven and the earth, that he might be amongst those who have certainty. How was it that he could challenge his father and eventually end up smashing the idols of his father, this little boy? Where did that yaqeen come from? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showed him the heavens and the earth. Not a supernatural vision, but he saw them. فَلَمَّا جَنَّ عَلَيْهِ اللَّيْلُ رَأَى كَوْكَبًا. When the night fell, he saw a star or a planet. He was small and he said, هَذَا رَبِّي, this is my Lord. This extraordinary thing that is high up, that nobody can reach. So many things in the world that we can touch, we can change. We can even throw a stone into the sea. We can cut down a tree, but we can't do anything about the heavenly bodies. This is a divine thing. And many primordial ancient peoples do think that the stars and the planets and the sun and the moon are divine in some sense, because they seem to be so unaffected by time and by the actions of human beings. So Ibrahim alayhi salam, as a little boy, before the age of taklif, is reaching for this conclusion. فَلَمَّا أَفَلَ قَالَ لَا أُحِبُّ الْآفِلِينَ. And when it set, he said, I don't love things that set. The star was there, but then the star wasn't there, and he had the deep, intuitive, fitri knowledge that told him, that can't be a power greater than myself. That can't be from outside this created world, because it comes and goes. It is, in the language of the theologians, muhdath. I want something that's qadim, something that doesn't go, and therefore can't have come into being, something that is behind all of this malakut. فَلَمَّا رَأَى الْقَمَرَ بَازِغًا قَالَ هَذَا رَبِّي. And when he saw the moon shining, he said, that's my Lord. فَلَمَّا أَفَلَ قَالَ لَئِنْ لَمْ يَهْدِنِي رَبِّي لَأَكُونَنَّ مِنَ الْقَوْمِ الضَّالِّينَ. And when the moon set, he said, if my Lord does not guide me, then I shall certainly be amongst the people who are led astray. The little boy has this knowledge. He can't work it out for himself. He's used his logic and he says, there is a divine heavenly being, but it turns out that that logic was misplaced because the star set and the moon set. And he says, I need hidayah, I need guidance. And that is the beginning of Iman. And that is the beginning of Yaqeen. And that is what distinguishes these things from ordinary knowledge that we have about anything else. In other words, this is wahi. This is given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is hidayah, which is why that ayah in Al-Baqarah then goes on to say, أُولَٰئِكَ عَلَى هُدًى مِنْ رَبِّهِمْ. It is they who are upon guidance from their Lord. And Ibrahim alayhi salam is saying the same thing. لَإِنْ لَمْ يَهْدِنِي رَبِّي. If my Lord doesn't guide me, I shall certainly be amongst the people who are misguided. But it doesn't stop. فَلَمَّا رَأَى الشَّمْسَ بَازِغَةً قَالَ هَذَا رَبِّي هَذَا أَكْبَرُ. And when he sees the sun rising, shining out, brilliant, he says, that's my Lord, that's bigger. Again, he's trying to use reason, but it's not going to work. The fact that it's bigger than the other things is no kind of clue to the fact that this might be divine and the others aren't. فَلَمَّا أَفَلَتْ. And when it's set, then the penny drops and he says, يَا قَوْمِ إِنِّي بَرِيءٌ مِمَّا تُشْرِكُونَ. I have nothing to do with the partners that you associate with the real, that which underlies all of this. These are phenomena, these are muhdath things. These come into being, they go away, and if you're saying these have a divine quality, then I have nothing to do with you, because all of these things, even the most splendid, they come to an end. What is the point of attributing divine status to them? And he says this beautiful prayer, which many of us say at the beginning of our salat, إِنِّي وَجَّهْتُ وَجْهِيَ لِلَّذِي فَطَرَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ حَنِيفًا. I have turned my face to the one who created the heavens and the earth as a hanif. وَمَا أَنَا مِنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ. And I am not one of those who associate partners to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In other words, he's worked it out. He's not going to confuse the effect with the cause. He's not going to look at these manifestations in the world and say some of these partake in the nature of eternity and divinity, because evidently they don't. Even the most spectacular, those over which man has no power at all, like these heavenly bodies, they come to an end. Ultimately in their nature, they're no different from the weakest of things that we experience. So he says he's Hanif. And what does that mean? That's one of the things that links him to Islam. Why do we make Hajj? One of the reasons we make Hajj, and the month of Hajj is almost upon us, is to be reminded of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam. It's Wadin ghayri dhi zara, a valley without cultivation. Most unlikely place for someone to go, but he goes there, and with his yaqeen, in this valley where there's nothing at all, he creates a house that, as al-Bayt al-Ma'mur, becomes the most loved building in human history. There is no building which magnetizes hearts more than the house of Sayyidina Ibrahim Khalilullah in Makkah al-Mukarramah. That is the consequence of his yaqeen, and the yaqeen of Sayyidina Ismail alayhi salam. Those are the fruits of yaqeen. But what is this path that he is following? And what does it tell us about this thing called yaqeen, which we all want, which we all crave? And some of the Sahaba, they had that extraordinary yaqeen, and that's how, again, they built the structure of Islam, which has never been thrown down. Sayyidina Ali, radiallahu anh, used to say, لَوْ كُشِفَ الْغِطَاءُ مَزْدَدْتُ يَقِينًا. Even if the veil were to be lifted, it would not increase in certainty. In other words, if I could see behind the veil of the here and the now and the dunya and the 4 points of the compass, and I saw al-haq, the reality that sustains it, my certainty would not be increased. Because of the extraordinary certainty that he had as one of the great Sahaba of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, which is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed such incredible, unprecedented, unrepeatable things to happen at their hands. That is the power of yaqeen, and that is part of Islam's Abrahamic genius and Abrahamic authenticity. But Ibrahim alayhi salam is doing what most human beings do. The little tot, he wanders around, perhaps he sees the night sky and he sees this amazing stuff going on, and something dawns on his nascent consciousness that this is very strange. He's beyond the mother's milk stage and he's starting to think about meaning. And he looks around at this staggering kawn and he wants to know where it's from, what supports it, who made it, where's it going. He wants those big questions answered. It's the human fitrah to want to have yaqeen about those basic things, and unless we have that yaqeen, everything else is going to be just another source of unease and stress for us. But the toddler looks around and his mind is blown by the scale of it, even though he can only see and understand a small fraction. And we, with our technology, see and understand much more. Just yesterday there was a piece in the newspapers about the oldest galaxy just having been discovered. Apparently the world's most powerful telescope on top of some mountain in Chile is able to detect this absolutely microscopic pinprick, which is a huge galaxy at a gigantic distance away from us that is apparently was formed only 600 million years after the putative Big Bang, the oldest thing that human beings have seen. So we say, Subhanallah, when we hear that news, because we can see Malakut as-samawati wal-ard, much more than Sayyidina Ibrahim as a tot could see it. We see more and more and more of it. And as believers we say, Subhanallah. And we see the tiniest things as well. We see quarks and bosons and protons and all kinds of inconceivable things. That's the nature of the modern world. But what we don't have is the hikmah to realize that this is just in the detail. Just as the difference between the sun and the moon and the star is a matter of degree, similarly, the distinction between our knowledge of the world now and the knowledge of the earlier generations, going back to Plato, Aristotle and earlier, had just a matter of degree. We know more about it, but we haven't begun to answer the question with our clever technology of what sustains it all. And that's where the yaqeen comes from. What is the conclusion that Allah gives with His hidayah, with His huda, with His guidance to Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam, that there is fatir as-samawati wal ard, the one who starts it all off. What is before the Big Bang? Does it make any sense? What is the meaning of time? What sustains the subatomic world? More and more big questions. And the sheer diversity of it cries out for an explanation. There was a philosopher called Heidegger who said, there are two things in the world which are the most improbable, but they're the only two things which we can regard as certain facts. And he really spent his whole life writing about that paradox. And the first improbable thing is the world itself, with its complexity, with the bosons and the galaxies and time and space. What an unlikely thing to be there. What an incredibly improbable reality. The other certain thing that is gigantically improbable is the fact that we're seeing it. Here we are in the here and now looking at that and thinking about it, reflecting on it, trying to understand it. That's even stranger, even weirder. And so he, as a kind of existentialist thinker, started to worry about this incredible paradox. Well, we would say that we're skeptics about big coincidences and improbables like that. At the deepest level of the human consciousness, there is the capacity for yaqeen. There is an openness to Allah's hidayah, whereby we start to look at things not through the fallible and limited machinery of reason, but through the fitrah. And that's what it is to be Hanif. The one who looks at the world and can feel at the depths of his consciousness, and science has not defined consciousness yet, and has not even begun to do so. Deepest mystery of what we are, we open to that and we say, Bala shahidna. Yes, we bear witness. We know that behind this there is a reality. That complexity emerging from nothing at all, from an Adam, is staggeringly improbable, as the philosophers all say, but the fact that there is a unifying principle behind it all, the one who is Qayyum, sustains the heaven and the earth, is the most obvious explanation. But it's before reason, it's before maths, it's before logic, before all of those things. It's to do with the essence of what it is to be conscious. Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam got there when he was little. He didn't need to go to university to figure that out. Theologians and philosophers argue about it and seem to be no nearer to a conclusion. Sayyidina Ibrahim as a little boy got it. Why? Because of Allah's hidayah and because of his fitri hanif openness to yaqeen. So this is what humanity needs. We need to broaden our minds. We need to get away from a narrow materialistic definition of what knowledge is and how we can learn, and open ourselves up to a deeper, more intuitive level of knowledge, which is the fitrah and which is what is natural. And this is part of the beauty of Islam, because Islam is based on cultivating and growing this iman and this yaqeen through contemplating the heavens and the earth. That is what the Quran asks us to do. وَيَتَفَكَّرُونَ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. They think about the way in which the heavens and the earth are being created. Not how does this atom interact with that atom. That's just the detail, and the detail goes on forever. It's about the deep mystery and the deep reality of how this could possibly come into being without there being a unifying, conscious totality which sustains it, which brings it about, and which ultimately will bring it all together again and reduce it to unity. So this is the yaqeen which we ask for. And this yaqeen is the most precious thing that any human being can have. If you have that yaqeen, everything else in your life will be all right. Because you'll have that certainty that there is meaning and that there is a benign providence that is looking after you. As Abu Sa'id al-Kharraz, rahmatullahi alayhi, used to say, صاحب اليقين قليل الاهتمام بالغد. The one who has yaqeen doesn't worry too much about tomorrow. He has to plan for tomorrow, he has to feed his family, he has to have this kind of tadbir, but he's not really worried at the deepest level. Why? Because he has this yaqeen and this iman and this confidence. And Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu also said that إِنَّ اللَّهَ جَعَلَ الْفَرَحَ وَالْرَوْحَ فِي الْيَقِينِ وَالرِّضَى. Allah has placed joy and ease of heart in certainty and contentment with Allah's decree. وَجَعَلَ الْهَمَّ وَجَعَلَ الْحَزَنَ فِي السَّخَطِ وَالشَّكِّ. And He made hardship and stress to exist in doubt and in resistance to Allah's decree. That's a deep wisdom. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless us with this yaqeen, and to bless us with the wisdom of an open-hearted way of viewing the world, not one filled with ego, one filled with the veils of the self, but one that is pure-hearted like a child, seeing the world, so that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, seeing our openness, can inshaAllah fill us up with the thing that we need more than anything else, which is yaqeen and iman. And with those things, inshaAllah, not only can we, with Allah's idhn, go on to improve the world and change the world, but also our inner life will come to life as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wishes our hearts to be places of flourishing, which can only come about if we have that deep sense of reassurance and security at the depth of our being. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين إنه هو الغفور الرحيم.